Thank you. Mr. Johnson, during her appearance, Pascal Fournier explained that she had put a donation acceptance policy in place at the Pierre, Elliott, Trudeau Foundation that involved a thorough review of donors. Prior to Ms. Fournier's presidency, did the foundation have a donor acceptance policy in place?
We had a donations policy, I think, since 2003.
Was it thorough?
It was, to the best of my knowledge, it was state-of-the-art at the time.
It was state-of-the-art at the time?
Yeah, when it was put in place and through the period that it was in place.
So while the period that it was in place, as the foundation received donations, did it require an investigation into the source of the funds?
I don't recall. I don't recall the content of the policy.
But it was thorough and state-of-the-art.
Yeah, that's right.
And you would have been involved?
Not entirely, no. That would be really management who would oversee the implementation.
Surely they would report to the board.
They would report to the board once the donation got through the screens of the donation policy.
But you don't know.
And depending on the donation, because a lot of donations were never reported to the board, we would learn about them in the newsletter if they were significant. But
you didn't have you didn't have real-time financial reporting to your board.
Not day by day. We were
not day by day, but quarter by quarter. Surely, at a board meeting as sophisticated as the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, you would have reports from the staff to the board outlining donations. You would, I mean, surely your testimony today isn't that you would hear about it in newsletters.
The newsletter was circulated to all the board members, but no, we were a board who met twice a year for 3 hours.
Okay,
so
I'll accept that. But you, in your time, you had shared with me that you have a political background. You have a political experience prior. We don't have to get into that, but I think you would appreciate the nature, and I think you referenced it in your remarks. You reference political attacks, given the nature of the foundation, reputational risks to the foundation, given the namesake.
Right.
What policies did you have in place to safeguard the foundation from reputational risks or political attacks?
I can't recall the precise wording of the donations policy of that day, but we had senior people on our staff of excellent good judgment, and that I believe would be an important check on.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to put to you, sir, this is now the second time I've heard this line. The other one was from Mr. Rosenberg, this idea of that we had excellent people, just trust them, take their word for it. Unfortunately, in my opinion, is what's landed us here, sir. Having served in other capacities, just basic, local NGOs, the level of reporting, the level of detail, the level of reputational risk, particularly relating to government money, not to mention $125 million of it, I would hope would require a higher level of diligence and reporting. I want to give you the opportunity to reply to some of the issues that were put by Ms. Fournier, and it is around this notion of recusal. That was, I'm sure, in the testimony that you would have reviewed that she had here, recusal was an issue that she brought up. At any time, did she ask you to recuse yourself from the oversight
of
the review committee? You had mentioned you wanted to chair.
No, I had told her that I should not be involved in the oversight.
But you were involved in the committee that decided how the oversight was going to happen?
No, we never got to that, frankly.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase it another way. Were you chairing the meeting for which the terms of reference of the review committee was discussed, and did she ask you to recuse yourself from that committee?
I wasn't asked to recuse myself from because it would have been the full board, but they didn't review the terms of reference of the inquiry.
Pascal Fournier stated that the mandate she wanted to pursue and the scope of the independent review created friction on the board. You'll know that she is agreed to submit to us in an in-camera basis and documents supporting information that she believes will substantiate some of her claims. While you were chairing, would you agree that there were instances where Ms. Fournier was personally attacked while you were chairing a board meeting?
No. I saw none of that. I did see some questions, but they were tough questions, but they were questions that she had invited.
So she stated that the mandate she wanted to pursue with the friction. Did you have any concerns regarding the scope or in the way in which she wanted to do the review? You alluded to this, I think, in previous testimony.
I don't recall having specific concerns. I think
Is the review currently underway?
No, it is not.
So you have a $145 million endowment that is now brought before the Ethics Committee under allegations of foreign interference based on a national news outlet reporting on a CSIS link, and you have not continued with a thorough review and investigation of this matter?
I have not been involved, but I know that my two colleagues who remain on the board are working assiduously to try to move that process forward, but we're hampered by the fact that we don't have independent directors who fit my definition of independence, and therefore some other mechanism has to be sought for oversight of the thing. Bear in mind that the board resigned just a few weeks ago. The full board resigned a few weeks ago, and it was a matter of going back to square one then, having no independent directors from whom who independent in the sense of not involved in any way at the time in 2014 to 17. We had not having none of those directors, so it becomes.
I think I'm out of time, but I do appreciate your response.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Johnson, given your past history with the Trudeau family, is it safe to say that you would have grown up with, or the children would have grown up around you at some capacity?
They would have encountered me.
How long have you known the Prime Minister for?
The current Prime Minister?
Correct.
Since about 1980.
Did you have any conversations with the Prime Minister during your time as the chair of the board regarding the foundation after he was elected Prime Minister?
No, none.
Mr. Rosenberg, in his term of president, did he bring forward any concerns regarding the donation to the board?
Not.
2016, recall, there was some negative press.
Yes, and that's just what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. I'm there at that point. Negative press was brought before the board.
And what was your response as chair of the board?
I wasn't chair then,
Okay.
but I was a director at that time, and we had no, and frankly, I'm not sure whether that was actually brought before the board or whether it was before. No, it must have been before the board. It must have been before the board that we had that presentation.
And what did the board do about it?
Informed about it. I don't recall anything specific other than reviewing what was being said, what was being said to the media about it.
So you did nothing in response, you just reviewed. During Pascal Fournier's term as president and CEO, did she bring forward any concerns regarding the donation to the board?
Not before, to my recollection, not before the newspaper article, the February 28th.
And you categorically deny all the allegations put forward in the Globe and Mail article?
I'm in no position to do that. All I can say is the allegation, if I could take it specific by specific, but I can say that we did not receive, we were never offered, to the best of my knowledge, $1 million.
I'm talking about specifically foreign interference.
But, I'm unaware of any foreign interference.
Would you consider an article of that nature on a national platform to be defamatory?
Arguably.
I mean, you're here before the Ethics Committee because of it.
Unfair, I would say, at least. Unfair.
And you are a lawyer by training, correct?
Correct.
So how do you respond to that legally? Did you ask for a retraction?
No.
Why not?
And I can't say. I can't. The idea of asking a retraction, frankly, never crossed my mind.
But if I'm chairing a foundation bearing the name of the former prime minister, while the current prime minister's son is the prime minister, or and his brother's on the board, and these allegations drop, and I'll give you some grace, because I don't know. I've never read a CSIS report. I don't know any of it to be true, quite frankly. When I read it on the face value of it, I give you the courtesy and the grace to say, we don't know if it's true, and yet I am shocked in the lack of defense from your foundation to the allegations that are made, aside from what's happening here in a statement that went out.
Well, it's it is out there now that at no time were we approached by a Chinese donor offering us $1 million.
No, but it was 200,000, and the donor was Zhang Beng. And in testimony just previously, you couldn't confirm whether you knew who the donor was. Can you not see how that's a problem? Sir, you are a very intelligent man. You're learned. You have a tremendous history. You've been on this board for quite some time. And yet, in your preparation for the seriousness of today's committee, you couldn't reference who the donor was. Do you not see that as a problem?
I'm the chair of the board, and I cannot be and must not be involved in every detail.
But you have a fiduciary duty as chair of the board.
Right.
That's why you have errors and omissions insurance, to ensure that you're not put in a legal, like you're a lawyer. So I can't accept on face value that you wouldn't see why this would be a problem.
I believe I can rely on assurances from others more closely involved as to what has been done, and whether or not what has been done is proper.
But what your job is to respond to it. So Ms. Fournier brings allegations. The last question I have to you, the concerns that she has purported to this committee, that she brought to you directly at the board meeting, what was your course of action after that?
Very quick response, please.
Very much to do our best to establish an independent outside review of the entire matter and all the circumstances around it.
That hasn't begun yet.
No, it would have been, I would
Johnson,
say it's
Mr.
well
Green,
underway
I've got
by
to stay
now.
on. Mr. Green, bring us home.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, you would agree that the foundation's purpose in perpetuity is to preserve the legacy of Pierre Elliott Trudeau?
Inter alia, yes.
And you would agree that this situation, this scenario, has cast negative aspersions on the foundation, perhaps justly or unjustifiably?
Utterly unjustifiably, yes.
Okay. And in the terms of the governance of the board, we've heard you meet twice a year, you're not fully briefed. Would it be fair to say that it's kind of a bit of a rubber stamp board in the management, really?
Not in the least. And by the way, on my watch, we've increased our meetings. I was talking about what it was like back then. On my watch, we've increased the number of meetings.
To how many a year?
And to 3 a year. And our meetings are far longer than the 3 hours
fair
that
enough.
they used to be.
The April 14th Auditor General request, is the Auditor General partaking on a forensic investigation into the foundation?
Regrettably, she is not.
Okay.
She has informed me that she would not.
She would not. You would have heard, likely, the discourse around the table around Chinese foreign interference. You would have heard of the prima facie parliamentary privilege of Mr. Michael Chong, MP Michael Chong. You would have heard of, obviously, the allegations around the foundation, Chinese police stations here operating. You would have heard all of these things. And so your foundation, sir, has been dragged into that world of allegations around Chinese foreign interference. As the chair, you have a duty to help preserve the legacy of the foundation. Would you agree that one of the ways to best provide the most amount of clarity around this, because we've now sat through many witnesses and I'm not sure we have clarity, would be to be included in a public inquiry should David Johnson, at the end of his special rapporteur position, present that? Would that be something that you think would be helpful in clearing the name of the foundation in a very clear and unequivocal way.
I don't think that would be necessary in order to clear the name of the foundation. I think that
Do you believe you've done so here today?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe that you've done here so today?
I've done my best, but I'm answering pretty narrow questions.
Sure.
And but I'm
For which you don't have the answers for.
well, some I've done, as I say, I've done my best,
Sure.
but they not. I can't tell you what I don't know.
But if
And
there's a public inquiry, you would cooperate with it.
of course.
Thank you.
Mr. Green, thank you. That concludes.